So I, every week, try to come up with new pre-show ideas for this show. But at the same time, I randomly find things on the internet that make me boggle my mind and just... So this week, in trying to do this, I discovered something. So our show here, the DVC Show, you know, it's a small niche community of people that love Disney Vacation Club, love Disney. We probably get, you know, on average between, 10,000 video views a week, and we get somewhere between like 5,000 or 6,000 audio listeners a week. So for a niche community, I find that is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with those. Sure. Now, one thing I will say is that half of you are not subscribed to this channel, so stop watching right now, subscribe to this channel. But meanwhile, back to my point, there's a video on YouTube of how to put a potato on your head that has 1.4 million views.
Yeah, it's only 9 months old, too.
Someone please explain this to me.
No, explain to me how you found it and why. Were you searching for how to put a potato on your head?
No, I feel like it was like in a podcast that I listened to or something, or someone that I watched actually on YouTube brought up this stat, and I was like, no way. Like, how in the world does something like that?
If there's anything that I've learned, there is a niche in a community that appreciates pretty much any topic. Do you ever get, because the potato thing's weird, but do you ever get suggestions on Facebook of groups that you should join? And then you see a post from one of those groups, even though you're not in it, and then you get engulfed in reading the comments. So I have learned a lot about a variety of communities lately. Okay, one of them being, did you know there's a whole community of people that just make things out of balloons, sell them for very expensive, like $800, big balloon signs, you're graduating, getting married, whatever. There's a whole charcuterie community. There's a whole community of people who make sourdough bread. There's a whole community of Airbnb owners, and I read through it and I could not believe some of the things that happen. So there's just so many interesting little niches.
We're happy that you all joined us in our little DVC community with Derek.
And a little fun fact, I'm actually the head moderator of the group of people that put charcuterie boards and balloons and potatoes on their heads. So if you on that group.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I'm your host, Paul Krieger. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
We've got John Sakari, a.k.a. Big Fat Panda, hanging out with us.
Hello.
Oh, jeez, he's got water on his head. Derek, the
Welcome home.
Senior Sales Associate, DVC something. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. Jeff Haslam, here he is. There you go.
Here he is.
I know. We can't even keep it together. We've had internet issues. We've had all kinds of fun stuff to get us started, and yet here we are.
It's cloudy today. I think those are very cloudy.
The clouds.
Stormy.
The clouds will do it. Even though
maybe we should have a contest. If we can get to 15,000 views, Amy will make balloon animals on the show.
I would love to see them.
That would be so terrible.
Her newest hobby is learning Spanish. So
it is. I've been working on it.
She has been.
Me too.
She put down the banjo for a little bit. She'll be coming back though with that one. Maybe you can sing in Spanish and play the banjo at the same time if we do like a live
with a potato on your head.
With a potato on your head. This is perfect.
This
is going to be our 2 million view video. That is going to be it. This is that is absolutely amazing. Well, welcome to our craziness this week, folks. We are going to talk about some Disney Vacation Club in some capacity, I think. But we are here to discuss one of the most popular articles over on DVC Resale Market that happen quarterly, which is the best economical DVC resorts to purchase. Now, we'll get into kind of what that means in its fullest detail, but in a very small form, it means what's the best resort to purchase, best bang for your buck at this given time. But each quarter, there is a blog that is put out that kind of summarizes sales from the past few months. It summarizes the average price per point that these are selling at. It summarizes the annual dues, and it puts these all into a calculation and just comes out with a
Can you spit on the microphone again?
I can try. At least it's my
Did you
microphone.
say the years left? Because it also considers the years left on the...
Yes, I did not say that.
Okay.
So no.
Kind of calculates basically a price per point based on those things. Cost per point, annual dues, and then years left on the contract.
But it then gives us a breakdown of what it thinks is the best resort for you right now. So we are going to kind of unpack what that blog looked like for the spring of 2024. But before we get into it, as always, if you love our content, if you love us just in our nonsense, please show some love for our sponsors over at the World of DVC. No, we stopped that, Pam. DVC Resale Market. If you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract, they can assist. Monera Financial, if you're looking to finance that DVC resale contract purchase, they will help you. And the DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, or rent out your own points. I don't even know where to go from here, so I'm just going to hand it off to Derek, because I feel like he at least knows what we're talking about a little bit. And I'm going to regroup for like 5 minutes. So Derek, tell us a little bit about the about kind of just this blog, where it came from, and what kind of resources it provides for someone that's potentially looking to buy into Disney Vacation Club or add on a contract.
Yeah. So I think it's, like you said, Paul, it's really one of our most popular blogs that we do, and we do it just about every single quarter because it takes into account, just like the things minus your sound effect, it takes into account, price per point. It'll look price per point, the number of years left on the deed, and then the annual dues. And so when you click on it, and hopefully we'll have some way that you can click on it, or you can visit it at the dvcresalemarket.com under blogs and just type in most economical, it will bring up the latest report. It breaks all those out. So in terms, you'll always, every single quarter, we'll always wind up with someone that finishes number 1, someone that finishes number 2, and all the way down the line. Now, why is it important? I always think it's such an important blog for people that mainly, in a nutshell, don't really have a favorite DVC resort, right? They don't really have an emotional pull towards one or maybe the other, or say, Derek, guys, we love the beach club, or we love the boardwalk, or we love this resort. Because then that's where your emotion comes into play, because you want to own it, right? So you can book there 11 months out. People that love certain resorts, they don't care how many years are left. They just don't want to be sad every time they go to book that their favorite resort is going to be booked up. So what's great about this blog is it really helps people that just kind of want to look, hey, what's the best bang for my buck? What's the one I'm not going to plan 11 months out, 10 months out, 9 months out, 8 months out. That's just not how we operate. So we're always going to book, anytime within that, 7-month period. We really don't have a favorite. We'd love to try all the resorts out. That's one of the cool things about being a Disney Vacation Club member. So that's why every quarter you'll always have a great list for you to be able to pick and choose, and be able to say, oh, I see this weekend. I know we'll delve into it more. This is going to be copper. Oh, yeah, look at this.
Nice camera angle, Paul.
I told you before, I feel like I'm just losing control of everything.
This has gone right off the rails. I love it.
He's having a rough night.
Of all the shows that hit like 50,000, this will somehow be the one.
I hope so, because we talked about a potato.
Where is that camera even located?
I don't know. I have no idea which one. Is it? No.
It's like the sky.
I have no idea. It's not even a selection in any of my cameras.
We've always got a secret camera hidden that Amy didn't.
But I'm gonna roll with it and keep it in. I did want to give a quick shout out to Scott Kaufman, who is one of the sales associates over at DVC Resale Market. Scotty is the man that crunches these numbers when we put these blogs together, and kind of comes up with the commentary that goes along with them. So quick shout out to him, and if you want a deeper dive into the numbers, he might be able to give you some insight into that as well. But
yeah, I do want to add, I want to add that I love this blog, and I will use it a lot when I'm talking to people at Monera, because I think that there's a misconception, especially with new buyers. If you're new, you don't quite know what you're doing, you're just starting to research, where you kind of get tunnel vision and you think, okay, price per point. Yeah. I want the lowest price per point for the best value, but there's so many more factors to look at than that. As a matter of fact, the lowest ranking resort on this list has the lowest price per point. So that's why I think that this economical blog is so important, because it breaks down everything that you should be considering when looking at DVC economics. You know, the annual dues, how many years you get left, and then, you know, and the price per point, obviously.
Yeah. And Amy, that's such a perfect point, because we talk to folks obviously every single day, almost 24 hours a day. And a lot of the question we get is, okay, I'm just learning about this club. So what's the best deal? What's the best deal? And that's where you got to talk to them and figure out and say, well, what do you mean? Do you have a specific resort that you're looking for? What the best deal is for that particular resort? No. We're just looking for, like, what's the best deal? Because I see Vero's like $45 a point. So I think that's where I want to buy. And that's where, Amy, you nailed it perfectly. That's where this resort comes in so handy, because it really does break it out to say, listen, if you want the best deal, these are the best deals you can get.
Yeah. And that Vero Beach is really where I wanted to start the conversation tonight, because I wanted to know how much it hurt your soul, Derek, that this is the least economical resort to purchase. It is the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the list.
I don't mind it. You guys go there all the time. I go there multiple times a year. I love it. Would I ever buy Vero Beach? No. But it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to be able to book it at 7 months out. But in terms of being an owner, I don't want to own a place that's got, you know, almost $14 per point annual dues that expires in 2042 and is not even located on Walt Disney World property. So,
yeah, and honestly, with the purchase of Disney Vacation Club, sometimes it's an emotional purchase. Sometimes it's, you know, a lot of people do not buy based off of what these numbers show. We're a pure example of that when it comes to our add-on boardwalk contract that we bought direct. And I still, you know, I know that we, you know, significantly did not get a good value for that, but it was the points we wanted at the resort we wanted at the time we wanted it, and so in our eyes it was worthwhile in that manner. So it's interesting to kind of review that before we kind of get into some of the top tier resorts that are presented on this quarter's report. I wanted to kind of just look at a couple trends that I've kind of identified throughout the report. And one big one that I'm starting to notice relates specifically to some of the 2042 resorts. And so, you know, Vero Beach, as I mentioned, that is at the bottom of this list for this report. It sits in basically position number 17. Position 16, Beach Club.
Actually, Beach Club and... Oh, no, I was wrong. I thought that was the position, but I thought they were tied.
No, the report also shows where they were the prior quarter, so
and
that you
where,
can kind of compare the two.
And how many positions they lost since last time. So that's interesting.
You look at, you know, the only oddity here in the bottom of this list is Grand Californian at number 15, which is explainable because of how you can't buy it direct, so the only way you're going to buy it is on the resale market, and it can charge a premium price for that. But other than that, you've got 12th place, Old Key West, 13, Hilton Head, 14, Boardwalk, 16, Beach Club, 17, Vero Beach. There's a trend that's starting to emerge with those 2042 resorts, and I really don't think we've fully seen that until the past year and a half, as we've seen kind of a decline in some prices and stuff like that. Jeff, you've just kind of been nodding your head right along with that.
That jumped right out at me as well. I mean, yeah, Grand Californian, it makes sense. Like you said, it's just really, really expensive. But everything else, looking at price per point is a steal compared to the rest of it. But I think people are starting to see 15 years, 17 years left on a contract. That's real time now. Like it's not so far in the future that it's abstract to most people. And myself included, I'm an Old Key West owner, and I'm looking at these prices go down, and I'm like, I really should have got out of this last year when I was thinking about it to get into something new, because it's very clear that it's becoming more expensive with the dues, less time on the contract. I think, like Paul said, we're going to see that continue, and probably exponentially so once year 10 hits. That's my prediction.
Yep. It's interesting to kind of monitor that. You know, even Amy and I, we were considering selling our boardwalk contract not too long ago, and we said, hey, let's just wait. Let's kind of ride out this market a little bit, kind of just see what's happening. And so we made the decision just to sit on it. But also we've kind of, I think, also made the decision that we're just going to keep it now. You know, it's
I don't.
It's not one that we're going to sell. We're just going to, you know, kind of be grateful that we bought it when we did, and use it for the rest of its life, and kind of hold on to it. So, Derek, are you kind of seeing the same when you talk to buyers and sellers and things like that?
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because again, I still talk to people who say,
Sorry.
I have no idea. Yeah, here we go. There he is. Okay, so I figured it out. It's at least when I pressed Derek's camera button, that's what was doing it. But now we got Derek back in his rightful place. So, Derek, you are letter A on my keyboard, and now you are back home. So go continue on, sir.
So if you get tired of me, just flick over to your ceiling fan. That'll be fine. Yeah. So there's still a ton of people though that we talk to that say, listen, Derek, you know, maybe we're a little bit on the older side, but you know what? We love the beach club. We love the boardwalk. Derek, we love Vero Beach. So we don't care. But my God, we're seeing Vero prices at, you know, $40 a point, $50 a point. We know we just want to be able to use it for the next however many years are left till 2042. And we want to be happy. You know, we don't want to be bummed out and be sad that we don't get what we want, because as more members come on, especially for places like Boardwalk and Beach Club, because that's a classic member thing, is that once anybody that doesn't own them, but once they stay there and happen to get in there at that 7-month mark and they experience those two resorts in particular, they're like, oh my God, I love it. But God, it's always been so hard. So you know what? I want to buy a small contract just for maybe every other year. I'm going to be able to book, you know, during the Food and Wine Festival or during one of those, just to be able to do it. So, I mean, again, I've always said people see value in so many different ways. So if you're a brand new member coming on board for the first time, does it make sense? And again, if you don't have a favorite, does it make sense for you to buy one of these resorts that are ranked, you know, 17, 16, 15, 14? No, I mean, it probably doesn't. But again, if you're a member that's looking to add on points, you've got, you know, some amazing prices and giving you that home resort. We just had our great webmaster doc, Rob Lindsay, wound up selling some of his old Key West contracts not that long ago, and he bought a larger Vero Beach contract. Why? Not because he wants to use it at Walt Disney World. It's because he wants to have enough points to be able to book one of those beach cottages at Vero Beach, to be able to book it 11 months out. So someone like that, he don't care about 2042. He just wants to be happy when he has it. But for those folks looking to join for the first time, that's where you'll see at the top of the list, and we can delve into it a little bit more. That's where it really makes the most sense and why this report is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Sorry, really quick.
No.
We look at these numbers, you know, you guys are in this business and we're business adjacent. We look at these numbers like they're God telling us what to do, but we often forget about the emotional aspect of it. And that is something for people, because when I stayed at Hilton Head last year, I almost bought points. Like, I was this close until my Amy said we had to buy a house first. Otherwise we would have done it. And looking at these numbers now, it would have been probably a terrible financial decision, considering that you can buy elsewhere for a lot longer and still stay at Hilton Head. But there is an emotional aspect that we sometimes throw to the side.
Yeah. And Derek had brought up a good point, kind of when you said, you know, as more members come on, those places are going to get harder to get into. Like, Vero Beach isn't getting any bigger. And there's going to be 6 3-bedroom beach cottages and no more until that resort expires. And so, but there's going to be more members. And as the Poly Tower opens up, there's going to be more members. And there's going to be more members, you know, with Fort Wilderness. And we're continuing to bring all these people on that can book there at the 7-month window, you know, if they're direct buyers. And that resort's not getting any bigger. So if that's what you want to stay in those, you know, beach cottages, or you know you always want that ocean view in room, you know, during this time of year, then yeah, then you need to buy what you want.
Yeah. I think it's important to note too, based off of just, you know, how these numbers pan out. We talked about Vero Beach, very low price per point right now. You know, the average at the time of this being written was $58 per point, but you then have annual dues of $13.86 per point. And sitting here going through this chart makes me want to kind of look at the current actively selling direct properties and do the same comparison in terms of what is the best long-term bang for your buck, because we see a resort like you mentioned, Fort Wilderness. We see some aggressive incentives being offered to sell the cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort. But we know that they have tremendous annual dues, some of the highest that we've ever seen for Disney Vacation Club. And this kind of comparison shows you what that's going to do long term for the value of that contract, which makes, it's why the past few months Riviera has done very well in direct sales. It's why I think DVC kind of said, hey, let's just try to sell some more Old Key West and make an incredible incentive for it, because those numbers, more so now than ever, we have a more educated group of buyers. The next generation, extremely educated. They're getting online, they're asking the questions, they're doing the research themselves before they get to that point. So, all of this information is out there at their fingertips. And so I think it just really kind of changes the game a little bit when you start to look at this in more detail. So when we get into, we'll kind of skip the middle of the chart, but Derek, you mentioned already the top of the chart is kind of where most people really focus their attention on these. We recently just did a show that was a comparison, head-to-head matchup, Animal Kingdom versus Copper Creek, and we kind of said in that show, a little teaser, that Copper Creek historically has done very, very well on these charts when it comes to being the most economical to purchase, and it continues to prevail. It is number one when it comes to the spring 2024 most economical resort to purchase. And I think a lot of it has to factor into the fact that its annual dues are kind of middle of the road. They've never been too terrible. Their increases have never been too terrible. The average sales price has been obtainable and has seen a little bit of a decline over the past year, as most resorts have on the resale market. But also the number of years left on that contract really is what kind of drives that, which is 43. That's that number that really kind of, when you get all the numbers put together, you divide it by that, and it's, that's what kind of drives it. Is that correct for the most part, Derek?
Yeah. I mean, you'll see some of the other ones up there. Sorry, I have to put on my reading glasses because I can't see. But I have on here too that it all comes down to, I think when people are kind of looking for the best bang for their buck, that yes, you're going to have, okay, I see this one as number one, or I see this one at number two, or whatever. If you don't have an emotional attachment to any of those, I've always found myself kind of steering people towards Saratoga Springs. And I say that I steer that whether it finishes number one, which it has for a long, long time, or number two, or number three, then it's back to number two, then it's number one again, is in terms of overall selection, which I think is really, really big. Because currently, right now, just to kind of put it in comparison, because why is there so much selection? Is because it's the largest Disney Vacation Club resort. But even right now, in terms of active listings for someone looking to try to say, I'm looking for X amount of points, or maybe I'm a member looking for a certain use year. We have at Saratoga right now, we have a total of 81 different listings for Saratoga. By comparison, for Copper, we have 29.
Oh, wow.
Right? For Bay Lake Tower, we have 33. So at the end of the day, for those folks that are, whether you're a member looking to match up that all-important use year, or whether you're a guest, just trying to find, okay, I just want to see how many different options I have, maybe between 100 and 200 points. That's where Saratoga comes into play a lot in terms of overall stuff to be able to pick and choose from.
I think also as a buyer, there's what you plan to do and what really happens. I think Jeff is like me, where we've never booked 11 months out. I never have.
Right.
You the same, Jeff? I thought I would. That's why I bought at Riviera, because I love it. But now that what I know now, talk about rookie mistakes in another show, I would buy Saratoga because I realize I just use points maybe 3 months out, 1 month out, and I figure out what I got to do with them. So, my plan was, I'm going to need Riviera 11 months, and so far I've never done that far in advance.
The thing about Saratoga is, on this list right now, it's number 4. Riviera is ahead of it, but little asterisk by Riviera, because if you are buying Riviera resale, which is what these prices are looking at, then you are limited, to just Riviera. So technically,
what number did they give Riviera with that restriction? They gave it
So yeah, so the restriction doesn't really play into those numbers. Like, how do you put a number on that? So this is just strictly looking at price per point, annual dues, years left on the contract. So Riviera comes in third, but there is like a lot of stars next to it.
Caveat, yeah.
Disclaimer, understand this. So with that said, that means that Saratoga probably consistently is, one of the top 3, top 4. But out of all of those, it is going to be your lowest, up front. If you're paying cash, it's going to be one of your lowest up front because you're going to be paying less per point. Even though in the long run, Copper Creek might be better, but.
Amy, just to be very clear, because I know that we think everybody knows, I bought direct Riviera, meaning I can use any resort, but if I go to sell that to someone, it's correct that they can only use it at Riviera?
That is correct. Yep. So yep. If you go and sell Riviera, then the buyer of your Riviera contract can only use that contract at Riviera. And then the same goes kind of on the flip side for, like Saratoga, all the original resorts, Grand Floridian, Bay Lake Tower. If you sell those buyers can't use them at Riviera. So it's kind of all, the restrictions are all focused.
They could use them everywhere but
Riviera. Yeah. Yeah, and then also anything new. So just Riviera, think Riviera, and anything that came out after that. So Disneyland Hotel, Fort Wilderness. The exception to that, the exception to that is the Grand Floridian Big Pine Key because they incorporated that into the same original resort, and then we know the same thing's going to happen with the Island Tower with the Polynesian. So it can be very confusing to keep track of it. One of the best things you can do is just if you're buying, talk to your agent and, where is this resort? Where can I use this resort? Just get that under.
And it's almost something where I think eventually we will see this chart kind of fall into 2 different charts. I think we will eventually see this merge into, the original properties that don't have restrictions and the other properties that now do, because for all intents and purposes, we believe that Disney Vacation Club plans to continue these restrictions for newer properties into the future. We see it with Fort Wilderness, Riviera, Disneyland Hotel, and if they continue to do that, that portfolio continues to grow, and it kind of then, there's going to be just 400 asterisks on this chart then, because, Riviera is in third place based off of that. But there's going to be 2 different types of buyers at that point. There's going to be the buyers of the original properties that want that flexibility to use the contract at those different resorts and kind of use them to panda your point within that 7-month window freely as you want to. But then there's going to be the other people that are going to have to start to buy strategically, as we've said before, where you want to stay, because that is your only option when it comes to resale on that. So, I mean, I would imagine, we're sitting here, 10 years from now, talking about this, hopefully with better technology and internet connections than we're dealing with today. But yeah, we're going to be having that conversation. We're going to be comparing 2 different sets of data based off of that.
And I think
looking at this list, looking at the list, again, the top 2, Copper Creek, Bay Lake Tower, really similar price per point, pretty similar dues. Does it surprise anybody that those are Magic Kingdom resorts? Because they're $20 cheaper than the other 2 Magic Kingdom loop, So, I mean, if you're the most visited theme park in the world, those numbers just came out again last month, and Magic Kingdom again is number 1, and for good reason. It's no surprise to me that these 2 are, even though Bay Lake Tower gets plenty of hate, when you can walk next door, that's pretty valuable.
Yeah.
Yep. And the dues at Bay Lake Tower are the lowest of what all the DVC resorts, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then something else, I do want to point out that this vlog was put together in May, and the Polynesian sits at 6th place. But I think if we were to reevaluate that resort today, it would probably go down some notches, because we're looking at an average price per point of $158 at the time that this was written, and right now those average prices are more like in the 170s, 180s.
Yeah,
and nothing else has changed about it. So those prices going up would drive the value of that down. But then again, it's emotional. Do you want Do you want to stay at the Poly? Do you want to book at the new Island Tower? So maybe that doesn't matter to you.
And if say overall years don't matter too much, like, okay, it's 8 years here, 10 years there, then that's why Saratoga is always so popular, because people might look at Copper Creek, but it's also a lot more per point, right? So you're paying more for that one time purchase price, that if you're never going to book, 11, 10, 9, 8 months out, then you're kind of paying more for a privilege. If you really don't care about years that much, then you're paying for a privilege that you're just not going to use, right? So it almost makes sense. That's why, again, Saratoga is just always such a great bang for your buck, because you say, listen, I'm only going to plan, 7 months out. I really don't, maybe I'll never even stay at Saratoga, but man, I think I'll just see what's available. Oh, look, the Poly's available. Okay, I'll click it and book it with my Saratoga points. And that's where, like you said, people are so smart and in a way, so blessed these days to have, what we have now, with all these great websites, with all these great podcasts, with all these great shows for research. Because back in the day, when you bought Disney Vacation Club, you sat with a Disney Vacation Club guide. They showed you the one resort that you could purchase and said, do you want to buy it? And you had to basically decide, if I'm on vacation, to go home, because there wasn't really an internet. There wasn't a place to go, oh, I didn't know I could buy sold out resorts, or I could buy this, or I could figure out what's going to be best for me and my family. So I think that's why shows like this and, our groups and DVC fan are just so incredibly helpful for people, because you have the ability to do things like research. Because again, these numbers and stats of resorts ranked from 1 through 17 on the best ones to buy just didn't exist when so many folks out there purchased Disney Vacation Club. I know they know that.
Yeah, we're like the consumer. Oh, here we go. Oh, back to the ceiling fan. I have
that
no
is
idea.
not a good angle either.
I don't know why. Like it worked like 2 seconds ago.
Never
now this time
had this
like,
happen before.
I don't know. Anyhow,
the ceiling fan was ranked 18. 18.
We're basically like the Consumer Reports of Disney Vacation Club, where it's like we give kind of that neutral data between both direct and resale. And I don't want this whole show, we are not going to go 60 minutes on this topic this week. There's no chance. And if we do, then yes, you could come at us and say, oh, you just wanted to talk about a resale market advertisement for an hour. But we've talked about how this relates to direct too. You need to look at the deals being offered for direct sales right now. And even if that incentive means a lower upfront cost for a resort like Fort Wilderness, you need to compare it against a Riviera and Riviera's annual dues. And you need to compare it against Alani, who is kind of the outlier in the situation right now with direct, where it's not affected by any of these things. Yes, dues become kind of part of the conversation there, but price per point's lower. Dues are a little bit of an issue, but it kind of potentially, I imagine if you actually did the math, Alani may come out on top right now when you break down upfront incentives, cost per point, years left on the contract, annual dues, and all of that.
I think there's another piece of the puzzle, if you really want to get into it, that this doesn't take, when we look at this information, we're thinking about what is the most economical for you to buy, you're going to use, and it is based on long-term use, right? So this chart works when you are planning on keeping your DVC for as long as possible. But there is another aspect to this that other people might be looking at, and I think that's where Alani falls flat, and that is resellability.
True.
And equity, because Alani direct prices are very inflated compared to the resale prices. So that's just something to keep in mind. Whereas if you're going to buy direct at, say, Grand Floridian, I would say that has one of the best resale abilities, or probably Polynesian coming up, especially when the tower goes on sale. If you're buying direct and then you eventually need to sell it down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine when Polynesian comes on sale, as long as it has some okay incentives, it's probably gonna, be your best option to purchase, whether you're a new buyer, an add-on, or whatever. I think it's definitely gonna be a great opportunity. And the other thing to add in terms of just factors we're not considering is we're assuming based off these charts that you are buying cash. We are not assuming financing in any way, shape, or form, whether or not you're financing with Monera direct through Disney, whatever, however you choose to finance. So if you do bring financing into the equation, then you probably have to add another layer of some hard to do math on top of that and figure out what situation might be best for you in that component also. So, well, I hope we've taken what is a little bit of a heavier topic, at least numbers wise and everything. And between my ceiling fan and lack of technology skills and internet that has been in and out all night, hopefully we lightened it up a little bit and made it a little bit more enjoyable to listen to. It did for me. I mean, the past half hour flew by only because every time I switched to Derek Cam, or see, I pushed the button for Derek Cam. It didn't even want to do it. It was like, nope, not going to do it. Every time I do that, I'm behind the scenes here, like messing with chords and figuring stuff out. I have no idea. But that is going to do it. We will put a link to the economic blog in the show notes of this show. Whether or not you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube, just go to the details and you will see a link to this specific blog that we've kind of been talking about for everything. But yeah, that'll do it for this week's episode of the DVC Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next Monday.